Yeah, it's Cash. Get him. DJ Deuce McGuire, this hot as a log fire. Spark the lighter in the 303. We wrestle at the quarry. Golden, Colorado. Mercury Pro Wrestling Academy. Elevated wrestling. Yeah. Hashtag follow if you know the motto. Can't stop now. Got the need for speed. Combustion and concussion. Championships in my vision. I put the key in the ignition. Such an easy decision. I got a hustler's ambition. Wrestling at its best. Welcome to the show I put on for Rocky Mountain Pro. Let's go.
RMP Radio is back on the air. Hi, I am your host, Mr. Fourth Row, and joining me on this edition of RMP Radio, I have Kaiden Koyama. Kaiden, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Mr. Fourth Row?
I'm doing just fine, but I think actually you're doing actually pretty fantastic. Brand new RMP Tag Team Champion with your partner Johnny Casanova. How did that feel winning that the big Rumble at the Loud House at the Pepsi Center?
Oh man, what an experience! I mean, just being partnered with the Mammoth, just to be involved is an incredible experience all on its own. Make-A-Wish being in there, all those cool things that we get to do. Those are some of the things of why you become a professional wrestler. So just getting involved in that part is incredible. Let alone the fact that when we found out about the show, then we found out there'd be a shot for a tag team title match. We were hoping it would just be us one-on-one with Curtis and Mercury Yaden, but things happened at the Rack House, Bierstead Lager House, I should say now.
Yeah.
And of course, we went in that triple threat just hyped. So just going into it was just like so many emotions, so many things going on, and so the match was a whirlwind. It definitely flew by really fast, and man, what an experience to be in front of over 6,000 people and win the Rocky Mountain Pro Tag Team titles. I tell you, that's probably the greatest feeling I've ever had. I don't know if anything can actually really top that.
Yeah, and this experience was, this is the second time that the Rocky Mountain Pro has been at the Pepsi Center, and this one was a little more produced, a little more fire per se. How was that experience just overall this time around?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, both experiences have been great.
Yeah.
I think that, the first time around was really us getting an opportunity to show the Mammoth what Rocky Mountain Pro is all about and what we can do as a whole. And so, after they got a glimpse last year, I think they were definitely all in. So when we found out how into it they were, that gave everybody in Rocky Mountain Pro, I think that was involved, more incentive to really step up and deliver. And just to get there, you're seeing the pyro out there and just this massive crowd and just the way that everything was set up, they're killing the lights. It was such an incredible experience and such an amazing setup. I don't, like I said, I don't know that I wrestle in some pretty cool places all the time, but that's definitely going to be one that sticks up in my top three forever, without a doubt.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it was on this side of the ropes, this side of the glass. Like I talked to Dustin Urich a little while ago. It was nice just not having to wait around, and this time around, and you guys get able to get that ring set up and get on with the show with the wrestling. So it was. I mean, I totally concur. It was definitely a better experience, and I can't wait till next time.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I'm pretty confident there will be a next time. The fan turnout was incredible. The wrestling was great, everything about it, and obviously I think the Mammoth players and seeing Wooly kind of put it to Jumbo, that definitely made my day. So I think the Mammoth will be down to have us back again.
Yeah, that's great. All right, well, transitioning from there, like we do here on RMP Radio, we get to know a little bit more about the person behind the wrestler, and you and I chatted there for a little bit. So you are a Star Wars fan. How did you get introduced into the world of Star Wars?
I grew up on it. It's one of those movies that was there's certain things that I can just remember growing up, like at my grandma's house. My parents always worked a lot. And I just remember there's certain movies and certain things that would be on at my grandparents' house, pro wrestling being one of them. And then the other would be like Disney movies or Star Wars movies. And this, the Disney movies that, as a kid, you'd see certain things just like, oh, that's cool. That's neat. It's a cartoon here and there. But the Star Wars always stuck out to me, especially for whatever reason, I remember seeing Yoda and being like, what is this all about? And, seeing Muppets, but seeing something like this, and it just kind of drew me in. And then you start seeing the story and you see these cool lightsabers as a kid. I'm just like, what, it's just like shiny, cool, bright things. It's just so amazing. I gotta watch more of this, and then you start to find the story out. So as a kid, I really got into to Star Wars, and then kind of fell out in high school, just playing sports, being busy, being active. But after I got out of high school, The prequel trilogies were red hot. Revenge of the Sith in particular, and I really got back into the movies. And so that just really kind of gave me a different appreciation for Star Wars as well. So it got me reading some of the books, comic books, playing video games, you name it. So Star Wars, wrestling is obviously my love, but Star Wars is actually not very far behind professional wrestling for me.
All right. So was Empire the first movie that you got introduced into that world?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
It was the first movie that I remember seeing. I may have been younger and seen A New Hope before that, but yeah, Empire Strikes Back was definitely the first Star Wars movie that I vividly remember. I just remember I still have like childhood visions of like I said, of Yoda, or even actually being in Cloud City and Darth Vader showing up. Literally, like I can remember being at my grandma's house watching that movie right now. So yeah, Empire was the first one. And it maybe that might be why I'm partial to it. That it is my favorite of the Star Wars movies. But I also think as you get older and you watch it, you can really appreciate the story and what they do in that one as well.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is, great because this is a very timely discussion since the latest movie just came out. But before we get there, so you started with Empire, and then so I'm assuming that you were watching it on probably at the time VHS.
They were actually. They were. Yeah. They were. I probably even bootleg VHS, to be honest with you. I remember this stuff that get recorded from pay-per-views or whatever, and my grandparents had a whole collection of movies like that actually. And that was how we watched them. That would just be like something we would do like every Sunday morning after wrestling would be over. Then because that was what my grandfather would do, is he would watch wrestling, but then he'd have to give the TV up to the kids, and that's what we'd start doing right after that. So start watching Star Wars and all the other things that we would get into.
Yeah. All right. Well, then you had mentioned the prequels, and at the time, like you were saying, that was kind of hot. Everybody was really jazzed up for it. Doing the midnight showings. Thursday night / Friday. For the Phantom Menace. I remember that. What was your memories of finally they went back and trying to tell a little bit of the story before Darth Vader and all that good stuff like that.
I was hyped. I thought it was a really cool idea, and especially back like I even can remember like Phantom Menace coming out. The 90s were a different time. You didn't get news about every little thing. It's not like finding out about Marvel movies or something like that now.
Yeah.
And so you'd see a trailer, and I remember seeing the trailer for Phantom Menace, being like, "Wait, what? This is what's happening now? Okay." And just like instantly just had me into it. And of course, like marketing became such a thing too, where you'd see, I just remember seeing Star Wars, everything, everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it just bombarded you, and just seeing like these cool lightsaber fights. And they had me at that, it looked so much cooler. It looked like it was going to be better, at least. I mean, hot take, I don't think it really is, obviously, but it was fun, and as a kid, you still enjoy seeing it. And it takes you back to even being a little bit younger, and you're just like, oh, I remember how great this is. I've got to give this another shot. So I definitely had a lot of hope for them, and I was very excited for every single one, even as they came out. It's like I got a little disappointed by Phantom Menace. It's like, well, that's okay. Attack of the Clones is coming. This one will be good. It's the Clone Wars, and that one came out. And you're like, it's not what I wanted. But then, like I said, I do like Revenge of the Sith. I actually think that's a pretty good movie. So they finally gave us one that I really enjoyed. Yeah.
And the prequels being what they are, they're kind of looked down a little bit on that, and but I personally think they're all watchable in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But then going from there, what was your thoughts about when the news broke that George Lucas was going to sell the franchise over to Disney?
I actually loved it personally. I'm a big Marvel movie fan. I'm big into Marvel comics as well too. I've read Marvel, DC, all comic books growing up. So for me, like knowing what Disney had been already started to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm like, okay, I'm in, because it doesn't sound like we're getting any Star Wars movies ever again. So I want more, I don't want to end this thing. So I was stoked, just knowing what Disney does to be successful and to make their product successful. I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm all about it, and it was cool. I thought that George Lucas did what he did with the money he made off the company and give a lot of charity and did everything that he did as well. That's always nice to hear when that kind of story as well.
Yeah. And he was a genius for keeping the merchandising rights,
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Man, made some serious money.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, then I want to know about your thoughts. Okay. So Disney buys it, then goes ahead and puts out their first Disney branded movie. The Force Awakens. I'm assuming you went to go see it and all that stuff like that. So.
Oh yeah.
What were you thinking? What were your thoughts? And and then afterwards, after you saw it, how did it hit you?
Going into it, I was hyped. I was totally into the movie, totally ready to go. Me and a bunch of friends did a midnight showing even for it. Went out and watched it, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't like you'll hear a lot of feedback about everything. There's good and bad, and I heard a lot of negative feedback about that one being so similar to A New Hope, and
Right.
you can see the parallels without a doubt. But at the same time, I felt like it was supposed to be a feel-good movie. It was kind of that first, hey, this is your first Star Wars movie back. We haven't made one of these in a long time, and Disney's never made one. So here you go. This is our first shot at it. So I loved it. I personally thought that The Force Awakens was enjoyable. It was fun. It set up some new characters. Visually, it was incredible. You can't go wrong with anything that happened there. I thought the whole tease of Luke Skywalker all the way to the end, you want that character. I personally did. I'm such a fan of Jedi, and I love the lightsabers and all that stuff in particular. And Luke Skywalker is just your prototypical hero, So I've always had a love for that character. So the whole movie, I'm like, Luke Skywalker's coming back. And you go through and you watch it. But I thought the movie did such a good job of pulling you into what's going on that you weren't paying attention to Luke Skywalker, even though they're looking for him. You weren't paying attention to that specific character until that last scene when Rey gets there and she hands him that, hands off the lightsaber, and then boom, movie's over. You're just like, oh my God, I'm so ready for the next one. And now I got to wait 3 years.
Right.
So I thought they did a great job, because it literally, walking out of that theater, I'm like, I seriously have to go wait. I have to wait how much longer now to see what's going to happen with Luke Skywalker? I just think that's what your goal should be, especially when you're trying to get people to come back and want to see more of these movies. I was like, well, they got my money. That's for sure. I'm going to watch the whole trilogy just based off that.
Yeah, exactly, and I totally agree with you. When I went to go see The Force Awakens, it was like you said, they did have a lot of parallels with New Hope, but I think it was the right amount of quote unquote fan service to kind of get that hit that soft spot in everybody's heart. Us of a certain age to go, God, that just brings me back. It just makes me feel like I'm 12 years old again,
Right, exactly. I felt like for the very first Star Wars movie that Disney had ever made, that should have been their goal, and I feel like that was a kind of a mission accomplished kind of thing for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay, and like I said, timely. So, have you seen the latest movie?
I have seen Rise of Skywalker. Went the night it came out. Actually, they do the Friday releases, but you can usually catch those Thursdays. And I made it a point to go and see that movie just because it's Star Wars. I always enjoy them, and I wasn't a fan of Last Jedi. I won't lie. It had its things that I liked about it, but by and large, I thought that movie was really, a lot of things were just out of left field. So I was really curious about where they would go with this one. And I think they did a good job with it, for the end of this trilogy and for the end of the Skywalker saga and everything they had to do. And for a lot of the things that I feel like they had to explain from the last movie, I think Rise of Skywalker is pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I actually want to go out and see it again just to kind of watch for some of the little details and the little Easter eggs that movies are getting really good at putting in that you didn't necessarily see in the past. So that's kind of stuff I'm kind of looking forward to seeing again as well too, because I know there's a lot of that in there if you watch some of the other Marvel, or not Marvel, excuse me, Star Wars stuff.
Right. Yeah, and that's it's kind of a big thing in movies nowadays to make you go see the movie the first time to see it, and then
Right.
Second, third time to catch all those quote unquote Easter egg type stuff that they try to sneak in there.
Exactly. Like, for example, I'm a fan of the Star Wars Rebels show, the animated show.
Yeah.
Actually, all those shows, but that one even in particular, I've gone through after the movie, kind of had to see all the things you missed, and they're talking about how you could see the ships from that show and stuff like that. So I always think that's nice little touches when they add those things in and kind of connect those larger worlds, just like Marvel's done, or just like those comic books were back when you're a kid. You read these, you see even like the Infinity War or whatever. I remember reading some of those comic books, and you'd see all these characters interact. So it's cool to see those little details, even in not just in Marvel, but Star Wars does it, because there's so much there. They have so much stuff that they can pick from as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, and along the same lines, have you been getting into the Mandalorian or anything like that with Disney Plus?
Started and finished The Mandalorian. Love the show. That I really like where they're taking that show in particular. That's the different area of Star Wars to kind of carve out. You know, the way they talk about Jedi on the show. You know, they're not on the show. You don't see anything like that.
Yeah.
You don't see the major characters, but everybody feels so important. You know, all the way through. Where you kind of get it almost puts some of these characters like the Emperor on a pedestal, you know, because like what they're dealing with is so big, but you see these what are supposed to be these quote unquote small tier characters, and they're dealing with these huge stories and these big things, and I think the Mandalorian did such a great job of just telling that kind of story of, you know, what the bounty hunters go like and what it's like for just, you know, just normal people living in this galaxy. I think it was a really cool picture they painted, and they've got me really excited for season 2.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, or as the latest meme out there, it's the Baby Yoda show.
Yeah, exactly. I'll happily settle with that too, because that little guy gets you hooked too. You're just like, seriously? I came to the show for something serious, but I'm just like oogling over the little baby over here, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, well, hey, so transitioning from there, one other thing that you mentioned to me that you are interested to as well. And I think this is kind of a common thing that with a lot of wrestlers, but that's the you're a comic books fan. How did you get into comics?
Just being a kid, you know, it was actually I could actually specifically remember how I became a comic book fan. It was a birthday party that I had, and a friend gave me comic book cards, actually, where they were like baseball cards, and there were a bunch of different just various superheroes I got, and one of them was Wolverine, actually. And like, I'm just like looking at these characters, and same thing, just like wrestlers or, you know, some of the other things that I've been attracted to in life. They're just like so colorful and just so like, what is going on with this, you know? And I look at all these different, you know, this different person, and you find out about these personalities, and just from these, you know, these little cards would just tell you this little story. It's like, well, I want to know more about this person. I didn't know much about comic books, but my uncle was really big into comic books. My mom knew that, and she kind of even knew who some of these characters were. So I ended up at a comic book shop, because there wasn't one very far from our house, and just started kind of reading comic books. And same thing, just like a lot of things I did. Once I got into high school, I kind of fell out a little bit, just got so focused on sports and things. But literally the second I was out of high school was almost like a switch hit, and I was like back to reading comic books and getting back into all this, pretty much the exact same characters, you know, big X-Men guy myself, big Green Lantern guy. Obviously everybody loves Batman, but I've always been attracted to some of the other characters too, just because there's so many other stories to tell. There's definitely a lot of fun stuff in that medium.
Yeah, so are those your favorites to turn to? The Green Lantern, the Batman, or do you have any other favorites?
You know, I love Superman personally. I think he's an underappreciated character in modern comic books. You know, he's one of my personal favorites. I've always enjoyed Superman stories. I feel like they're really big and just really epic. I've always had a lot of fun with those. All the branches of the X-Men comic books, I liked X-Force growing up, X-Factor. Just like that, I always loved the mutants. I've always enjoyed the story of the mutants. Just especially just the tone of that, you know, just being hated and not understood, and just that's always been, the X-Men have always been one that I've really enjoyed. I'm a big Justice League guy as well too. There's something about that team that I really, really enjoy. It's heartbreaking that those movies can't be done in the same vein as the books are.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you. I mean, what are your thoughts about DC just not being able to hit home runs as well as Marvel is?
That it's just heartbreaking, just because I love those characters so much, you know. And it was like just a Justice League movie. Like, there's silver lining for me in the sense that it actually happened,
right.
But that's definitely not what you'd expect and not what you'd hope for. But I think they have hope. You know, Aquaman I thought wasn't a bad movie. Shazam was okay. I didn't mind it. And we'll see what happens with the Birds of Prey movie. They might be able to pull something off. So I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful, because that's the Justice League to me. That's just like the ultimate team up. You know, the Avengers are really cool, but I just, like, as a comic book guy, and if you just go back and look at the teams, I just feel like the Justice League's the team. You know, I may catch a lot of heat from people for that one, but to me, the Justice League, if you go back, if you look at the teams, you know, Wonder Woman's incredibly powerful, Superman's incredible. You know, you got the Flash, you got it's just an awesome team, especially, and that's just like the main characters that you think of, you know, or even like movie characters. characters, but you go deeper into comics and there's so much more that they've done with those guys. So I'm just maybe it's just me, but but I do like Marvel comics, and I love the X-Men. I enjoy a lot of other stories. Iron Man's always fun to read. There's definitely some good stuff out there. You just have to dig, and honestly, sometimes it's more about the writers than it is even the characters.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was going to ask you that when it comes to, like, for example, the adaptation to the movie side. Do you think it's just they're just not getting the right story, and they just need to find the right, the right producer and all that good stuff like that for the DC?
I kind of do. I think, especially if you look at like how Marvel Studios is it's all Kevin Feige,
Yeah.
and it all goes through him, and and he's at the point he runs everything Marvel. He's even Marvel Comics, from what I understand now too. I think there's just too many hands in the pot for DC. I think there's too many people that have a different vision, and I think if one person was just really kind of plotting it out, they'd probably do better. But I think they're doing some things. That Joker movie was interesting, and if you're going to go the route where you make some different stuff that doesn't necessarily have to, they don't have to all fit together. You can do some fun stuff and you can tell some different stories, but I think the other thing is that they've been trying to compete with Marvel so much instead of trying to kind of create their own avenue and their own thing that they could just do on their own,
Right. Yeah. So basically, they really kind of need a Kevin Feige counterpart, somebody that has a complete understanding of the DC universe and being able to be the guardian, the caretaker, the person going, yeah, this is right, this is wrong.
Right, exactly. And I guess there's rumors that J.J. Abrams may be doing that. So fingers crossed. He seems to do some pretty good stuff whenever he gets his hands on things. Like I said, I like what he's done with the Star Wars movies he's done. So
yeah.
Fingers crossed if that's the case, But the great thing is it's a great time to be a fan. There's so much to talk about, and there's so much content being delivered to us now that even if it's not your exact hope and desire, you're still getting it. You still get a lot of stuff to talk about and enjoy and witness. So we always get that at the very least.
Right, yeah, and I was gonna just piggyback on what you said. So with J.J. Abrams also did a great job, in my opinion. I'm a Star Trek fan, and he did a great job on the movie reboot for the 2009 version. I thought he did a great job getting us introduced to a new original cast per se for the movies. So I thought he did a great job.
Absolutely. I remember watching those, and not even being a big Star Trek guy, just watching them, just going and seeing the movies. I went and saw them because of J.J. Abrams, to be honest with you. I'm like, well, I know what this guy can do, so let's take a look, and I enjoyed those movies. I have not had a problem with any of the modern Star Trek movies personally.
Yeah, I haven't either. They're great, great 2 hour episodes is per se.
Exactly.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Well, kind of shifting from there, one other thing you mentioned to me is you got a different, not completely different or unique version of pets that we have in America. Normally it's the dog, the cat, or whatever, but you have fish and guinea pigs, you told me.
I do.
How did you choose to go that route?
The fish thing, I started doing that long before I even got into wrestling, actually. Just was really curious. I was just living by myself at the time, but I was busy and I didn't have time for a dog or anything like that, so but I wanted something in the house, I ended up just kind of reading about fish and found some basic fish, like they were actually like glowfish. It was something simple at the time. And they were fine animals, but the more I learned about it, the more I started learning about different things about maintaining a tank, and you find out all these things more often than not you're doing wrong with fish, and you feel awful because you're like, oh my god, I'm giving these poor fish this awful environment, their water's terrible and this and that, so I started learning because like anything I do, I just start reading and I just get really curious about. So it's the same thing with the fish. I'm just learning about just tanks and this and that, and I'm like, oh well, these guys do better with this. Oh, this tank's too small. Oh, this is that. So now I'm at a point where I have a 29-gallon and I have a 20-gallon tank. I actually took down the 20-gallon. I'm not using that one right now. But I've had all different types of fish, and just use different things. Anything freshwater, basically.
Okay.
The saltwater stuff's pretty tricky to get into, and just that's a job all in its own. That's why you'll hear people that do have saltwater tanks pay people to come in and work on them because they require a lot of daily maintenance and then just weekly and all these various things that you have to do on top of that as well. So I stick to my freshwater fish. They can keep me pretty busy all on their own. But right now I just keep it simple actually with just some guppies. Looking to open up my other 20-gallon tank again. I'm going to shift those guys in there and probably put in something maybe a little more aggressive. I haven't decided exactly what I want to put in there, but I've run semi-aggressive tanks before. I've had like some freshwater sharks and things like that, and they're pretty fun to have. But it'll be a little crazy because they'll definitely go at it with each other.
I see. And what about the guinea pigs? What kind of guinea pigs do you have?
So I have my girlfriend would be able to tell you better about it than me. But I love them, but she knows their species. One is, I believe it's an Abitian, and he's so furry. I mean, he's just got the longest fur just hanging off his body. He's got literally, we've counted like 7 cowlicks on his body. So he's just got fur going all over the place. I got to name him. I named him. He's named after a professional wrestler. His name is Haku, actually. He's not at all like the pro wrestler in any way, shape, or form. He's adorable and fuzzy and cute, and obviously the pro wrestler's not that. But we have him, and then we have Bandit, who's I believe is a classic American guinea pig. And so his fur's shorter; it's kind of longer towards his butt. He was the first one. He was the first one my girlfriend had got. Got him. She had a dog pass away, and she wanted something else. So she ended up with a guinea pig, and we're like, all right, well, I guess we're doing guinea pigs now. So we had him for a while, and same thing. I started reading about him, get kind of curious about what these animals need and how they thrive and whatnot, and find out like, well, he needs to be with somebody. They do much better in pairs. Right. So we found a second one, and we decided we needed a bigger cage for him. So we found an old bed. Actually, I took an old single bed and I built that into a cage. Actually, so I just threw a couple of hinges on it. It's got a functioning door. Threw some chicken wire on there, and now they've got this massive cage. We did the math on it. It's big enough to hold probably about 6 or 7 guinea pigs, but we're like, the 2's fine. They can roam about. They got all the space that they could ever want. And I think they do better for it, to be honest with you. You hear people talk about guinea pigs like, oh, they're so boring. All they do is just sit there. I'm like, well, not ours. Ours are jumping around, and they're always doing something or another. So they have a lot of personality. They're actually really fun to have around.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear they got, like you said, a lot of personality, and they can be kind of noisy at times and that kind of stuff. But it's still everybody still says that I've heard that says they're still a lot of fun to have.
Oh, they totally are. I'm actually shocked they haven't made any noise the entire time we've been sitting here. They'll squeak periodically when they hear things in the house, and they've been really good actually this entire time. I'm actually kind of shocked by that.
That's fantastic. That's great. All right. Well, Kaiden, I think that's a great place to wrap this up. But before I do let you go, people wanted to follow you on the social medias. Where could they do that?
You can follow me and keep it easy for everybody. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is at Kaiden Koyama. So literally you can just go there. You can catch up on everything from there. Of course, there's always RockyMountainPro.com. Anything Rocky Mountain Pro, we're always heavily associated. Anything JK Pop will be there as well, too.
All right. Oh, fantastic. Well, once again, I do appreciate you coming on to this edition of RMP Radio, and I will be seeing you in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. We'll look forward to doing it again.
All right. Thank you. Once again, a big thank you to Kaiden Koyama for coming on to this edition of RMP Radio. And like we say, get to know a little bit more about the person behind the wrestler. All right. Well, before we get out of here, let's pay some bills like they used to say back in the day. You want to get some great, fantastic merchandise of your favorite Rocky Mountain Pro superstars, just easily head over to rmpwrestling.com, click on the merchandise link, or in your Amazon search bar, type in Rocky Mountain Pro, and you'll get all kinds of great choices to choose from there. And, of course, this week we got some... going to pick JK Pop, probably the one of the newest ones they have, and I think it's pretty cool. It goes along with their stickers that they have that you can buy in person. And speaking of which, if you are in the area and attend a Rocky Mountain Pro event, they've got some other merchandise available to buy in person at the events that isn't on there. So exclusive to live events, you could say. But that would be the JK Pop Tune shirt. It's pretty cool. I like it. I have not got one of those yet, but maybe I will here soon. All right. Well, if you want to attend a Rocky Mountain Pro event coming up here on January 31st at 9 p.m. at the Beer Star Lager House, formerly known as the Rack House, so we'll keep saying that for a little while, 9 p.m., that's a free event. That is the Rocky Mountain Pro Experience. Going to be fantastic, and like we had talked with many other previous guests, that is where the charged TV tapings are going to culminate and come to a head. So this is going to be an event that you're not going to want to miss if you are watching the Rocky Mountain Pro product there on twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro, Fight TV, Impact Plus, and the Fight Network UK. So that's going to be great. So right there, I also just told you where you can watch to stay in tune and up to date with everything happening with Rocky Mountain Pro. So we would definitely appreciate you if you can subscribe to twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro. If you are, of course, an Amazon Prime customer, you do get one free subscription and to twitch.tv, and we, of course, appreciate you if you would do that. You can also, of course, view all of our videos on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Rocky Mountain Pro. All right, well, you want to follow us? Everything does stem from the website at rmpwrestling.com. And on the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and the Instagram of all, the username, the Rocky MTN Pro. And that, once again, is the Rocky Mike Tango November Pro. Well, I want to thank you all for listening to this edition of RMP Radio, where pro wrestling is elevated.